be sincere and truthful to myself. That's principle that I want to practice. But I have this laziness that I wish to overcome. But related to this laziness is the sense of getting old, and the energy level may be lowering, and the memory get shrinking. For example, I tried to remember my friend's name, and I couldn't find out readily. I just had the correspondence like a month or 2 months ago, but I didn't remember. Eventually I found the way because there's a way to search for it. So if I follow what Einstein said, if you can find it, don't need to memorize it. And I think that makes sense. But not to justify the laziness, I thought it's meaningful to talk about it. Sorry for the noise, I don't know what's happening. Maybe this is the laziness. I just keep on going. Yes, laziness related to the noise, for example, is to accept it, not react to it. And there's a fine line of being sincere and truthful, but accepting, and may appear to be lazy, but it may make sense. For example, if I have to redo this, it takes time, and I may have lost my thought by the time. So maybe better just to focus and keep at it. So it requires discipline. And what I feel is that as we get older, life energy, how to process, becomes so important without being disturbed by the noise from externally, but internal to our own thinking. So I'm maybe taking advantage of the noise to kind of tie into this story, which is laziness and being sincere and truthful. Let me see it this way, because if I cannot remember the name of the person, like Einstein mentioned, that's what it is. And if I struggle, it may not make sense. To a degree we can, to seek for the way, but like finding the passage through the email or message to find his name, I get the result. So laziness or retard is another word that I use. As you get older, in a way you want to be retard for the unnecessary things, because more you tangled up in the unnecessaries, that's not smart. So there's a fine line. And I'm not trying to justify it, but I just want to make sure that I'm addressing in the way that makes sense. And here's the story of a Zen monk. He had a visitor, and usually he pays, say, $10, $20, I don't know, for the visit of attending some kind of a meeting, whatever. This time he forgot, and the monk, who usually get the payment, found him after a while because he has gone already. But this monk chased him before he get to the station or something, and asked if you had forgotten the regular $10 or whatever the amount. And this person thought that was profound. I don't know if that's the word, but he decided that this monk has some quality that he seemed to possess. And to me, what it means is that it took some time before he noticed the amount and decided to come and ask if that's the usual, regular, or is there something missing, is in a way a wisdom. He found, he questioned. After a while, he thought he should ask this guy what was the intention. So he was kind of like a retard, conditioned. There was another noise. So that's the story. And I thought that was quite interesting, that things take time to resolve. And you can say it is so, let it be. That's one way to do it. No big deal. But this action triggered this visitor thinking that this is a person who is very genuine in the sense of how he conducts his life. So he was more engaged in this process. So each situation is different depending upon the person who participates and act or react. But still, that story reminded me something. I kept that story. And I thought that makes sense. I leave it with that because I left it at that. And I haven't made up my mind, but roughly, but I didn't have to go. I don't have to go too much, anything more than that. But one other story is the story of akubyodo in Japanese, which means bad equality. The wisdom of equality is to see yourself as others equal. Everybody is in the same plane, equality. Nobody is superior or worse, everything as it is. Why? One logic may be the law of nature provided everything as they are. So from that point of view, it is so. But if you want to differentiate one to the other, that one is so flourishing and the other is dying, you may not see it equal. But from the point of view of God, if you want to call it, or the way of nature, that they all exist, whatever the reason behind, due to the cause and effect relationship, what happened. And even the bad is because of the circumstance. So that's the compassionate way. But the compassion of being equal may be abused by the mind because everybody is equal. I can't do anything. That's not the point. So those are the subtlety. Let me finish this story because this is just raising some questions or the stories to process. And I think it's okay to live with it without making any decision. Because that's part of the puzzle of life, that we encounter different experiences and each to find a way to digest and move on. So the last piece, no, I don't remember what I meant to say. Yeah, the last piece is about death. Toward the end of life, your ability may be less, memory, eyesight, heart and lung, whatever, would start to fail as it is. Let it be, so be it. I posted the video. I'm planning to post a video on that subject. And the nature's way, equality, nothing to fuss about it. But mind and ego would fuss about it. Why this happens, why this happened to me but not to the other person? Why now, not the other? And how can I go over? Is there a way? So that's mind. But the other, much deeper part is just the nature's way. So, back to the retard, no thinking. Things happens, let it be, so be it, and find the path. When it comes to your ego or your self-identity failing toward death, it might not be easy. But the retard is to focus on what can be done and let go of name of the person or event. Nothing you can do. So there's a wisdom and compassion behind that, not to say that in equality I can do anything. I can cheat, steal, anything. And that's not the point. So that's akubyodo, bad equality thought that you can do anything. Because Amida is going to save you if you say Nam Amida Butsu. So that's a biased way. So what's the bottom line? I don't think I would say anything about it, but those kind of indicate the potential dangers and the way to go beyond. There's no specific action suited that can be explained because there's no way of explaining the certain situation without actually knowing the setting. Like the monk and the guy who forgot to pay $10, $20, and he appreciated the fact. So each incident, each wisdom, setting, compassion is its own, not to be prescribed and onto the stone that this has to be done in this situation. It depends on the circumstance. And that is the way that we are to live, given the circumstance, and find the right path. So let's leave it as a core of living, how we live our life. And that's how I take it. Core meaning the puzzle. Usually the core is specific, but this is the moving state of our life. Everything is changing. It's the real core of how to live life. Let's keep working on it. There's no end to this, in my view, in each circumstance. But maybe I'll say something. When you have the sense of deteriorating your age and incapacitated, but still have the sense of acceptance, everything okay, appreciating life, That sounds like a pretty good state. Instead of complaining and suffering, but rather to be peaceful, to be, to live, even facing death. I hope this is not to be taken in a very negative way, but rather a realistic way. And it may be good to keep part of your memory so that you can see the angle, different angle of how people may respond and find the path. Thank you. I was lazy on the bed, but I thought I wanted to share this much. Thank you.